sometimes pecking around and trying to Stack Overflow your way through writing a project, that can be a great way to make progress quickly, right? Because sometimes you don't need all the information. You just need a very specific piece of information so you can move on, right? Right? You don't memorize an entire dictionary, right? You just like, oh, what's that word mean, right? And you look up that one word, but you don't front load the entire dictionary, right? We all speak English, but I think very few of us have actually read through an entire dictionary, right? So when people code, I don't see anything wrong with not having read that entire C# book or something like that. But on the flip side, sometimes you get stuck. And when you get stuck, might be a good time to start reading. I don't want to read this. I don't want to read. But I've been hunting around. No one has answers for me. It's time to just read. And the scary part is, what if after reading all 161 pages of this, I still don't have a solution? The thing is it's time for brute force, I think. The problem here is I'm able to sample, I was able to load a texture and then sample from it. I was able to figure out that code. But for whatever reason, my texture is, it's skipping. So I made like a checker pattern, and the texture is skipping pixels. Let's see if I can find where, if I can modify this a bit. Let me look at my code here. The code is still a mess. I have my texel fetch function, and I was messing around with it, but I'm fairly certain this is the correct formula, because I'm paying attention to where those pixel centers are. And out RGB. The UV, okay, where did I change that? So I know I changed somewhere where the sampling is, trying to okay, so the UV input, okay, this variable right here, but that's in texel fetch. Yeah, so this is a good example of why it's good to organize your code, because the information's there, but I have a hard time making sense of it just because it's scatterbrained all over the place, and I'm trying to figure out where I did things. Oh, so here it is. So I just took that frag chord, and you notice that I'm dividing by 10 here. The reason for that was I was trying to get more samples in a row to try to figure out what was going on. But even after I do that, I'm still skipping half of the pixels. So if I let's divide by 1.0 here for a second. So the idea was that GL frag chord, it starts at the pixel centers, but my formula is trying to use these coordinates as tile coordinates or as pixel coordinates on a bitmap. So the first frag chord starts at 0.5, so we want to minus 0.5 to get a tile coordinate that starts at 0. And anyway, so if we do that and we refresh this, you'll notice that this looks kind of hard to see because I did some other things to it as well, because I've been trying to modify the pattern on the bitmap to try to diagnose the problem. If we go into the code where I'm doing that, so here, if tx equals 0 and ty equals 0, I'm going to set a white pixel. And then if tx equals 1 and ty equals 1, I'm setting a black pixel. And you'll notice If we zoom in here, what's that right there? That is a black pixel. So for whatever reason, the logic I'm using for texture sampling is skipping over the very first coordinate for whatever reason, and I don't know why. And I've tweaked the formula multiple times, shifted things around to try to diagnose why that is happening. So let's comment. So I added in these scan lines that are 2 pixels thick, and when I sample, I only get 1 of those pixels back. So I just wanted to verify that that I was indeed getting skipped values. So if I take that and get rid of, so I'm going to just skip over this and use this original pattern here. And this original pattern is going to create like a gradient, and you'll notice this inverse in min here. That's from right over here. And all I'm doing is creating a checker pattern where we take the min is used to create a square gradient, and then this OE and INV, OE for odd even, and then inverse is to create a checker pattern by looking at the tile X and tile Y. And on that checker pattern, I wanted to make some of the checkers, let's see, some of the red, so some of the checkers green, and then some of the checkers, some of the checkers red, some of the checkers green, right? And now, if we take a look at that though, so let's refresh. So now the scan lines are gone, and you'll see this square gradient, but it's all green. So that square gradient is done with this blue channel, so we can up the blue here. We put that to like 128, and we go over here. We're going to refresh. So yeah, we have the square gradient, but you'll notice we only see blue and green. So where the hell is the red, right? Because we did like every other pixel, and that's why I'm saying that my texture samples are somehow jumping over every other pixel, and I have no clue why. So, so texture fetch. So I know I have a texture fetch command. I'm gonna go search for that, and you can't see the screen. So let me go over here. Oh, actually, it's texel fetch. I did get the texel fetch command to work as well, but I also made like my own as well to try to see the differences. I like being able to create my own texel fetch function just because I can do things like have some type of custom behavior if we're fetching out of bounds, and so I decided I'd make this like checker pattern if we go out of bounds when we're trying to fetch texels. But anyways, if I double click this and I look down to where that's being called, okay, well that looks sane. So it's really this formula here. So I tried a -1 here because I thought, oh, that kind of makes sense, right? It doesn't make sense because I've already looked extensively at these formulas and realized you don't need a -1 on the width and height of the textures. But let's just do that and see what kind of results we get here. Okay, now that's fucking interesting. Right, because I have that checker pattern, and for some reason on different quadrants, this is getting every other pixel but getting the green. This is getting every other pixel but the other every other, so it's getting the red. But I don't know why that is, so I'm guessing that one reason would be because my texture coordinates are somehow compacted, and therefore the only thing that would make sense is if this texture was like 256 and the bitmap I'm painting on is 512, right? Because then that will be a reason for skipping every other pixel. So let's take so let's save. Well, actually, I'm gonna stop recording because I don't know how long I've been recording for, and then I'm gonna get back here.